Anjana-shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to the Sri Upanishads course. Yesterday we discussed why we should study the four bhaktisashtri books. In the entire Vedic canon, why Prabhupada chose these four books. Sri Isopanishads is Shruti Prasthan, Bhagavad Gita is Smriti Prasthan, which establishes that Sadhya, who is Sadhya? It is Sri Krishna. It is pointed out in the Isopanishads that the actual truth is a person. And the sadhana to attain him, the means to attain him, is more elaborated, discussed in the Updeshamrita and the bhaktisashtri Sindhu. So Sadhya and Sadhana, in that context, we saw Sambandha, Videya and Pravajana. Later on, we went into the introduction of the Vedas. The introduction of the Vedas is from the Isopanishads commentary to all the previous acharyas, which is now translated by Balu Maharaj. And some other concepts also from other places we had discussed there. Now, today we will actually begin with the introduction to Isopanishads. So, this is not part of the Isopanishads, but the BBT later on inserted this because they felt apt as an introduction to Isopanishads. This is actually a lecture given by Srila Prabhupada. We can see that Srila Prabhupada gave this lecture in London, Conway Hall in October 6, 1969. So this lecture speaks about the Vedas and draws the conclusions, and the BBT editors found it relevant, and they have, as part of the book published, they have included this in the form of introduction. So today we will be studying this introduction, teaching of Vedas. which is a lecture given by Srila Prabhupada. Also, we should remember that Prabhupada wrote the commentaries to his Isopanishads and published them in his Back to Godhead articles. And they appeared one after another in the Back to Godhead articles. And later on, all these articles, each of the mantra articles were compiled and formed into a book. Prabhupada gave that permission to do that, and also to insert the introduction teaching to the Vedas as part of the introduction to the Isopanishads. So today we will begin with this introduction, and the way we are going to study the Sri Isopanishads is that we are going to have the entire paragraphs, be it in the mantras or in this now introduction, will be divided into various themes. And these themes will be discussed while reading the paragraphs. We'll read the paragraphs, what Prabhupada is saying, and that's how we'll study the purports of Srila Prabhupada. And we will discuss the various themes. There are particular themes, and we have given those themes here. And also some of the important concepts or terminologies which will be there while discussing this. Some of the important philosophy concepts also we will be discussing. So that's how our study methodology will be for Sri Isopanishads. Now, another thing which I wanted to point out is that this paragraph numbering, you can see this teachings of the Vedas is there here in the introduction to the Sri Isopanishads. And for all the mantras, there is a purport. Now here, many editions of the Isopanishads have been printed by the BBT. Every year, or every few years, they print a number of copies. And the paragraph numbering changes in, different editions. I have 3-4 different editions here, and the paragraph number is not matching in all. So for your paragraph numbering in your books, please refer to the Veda base. The Veda base will be the standard. So this is first paragraph, this is second paragraph. Remember, this is third paragraph, just one line. This is the fourth paragraph, and this is the fifth paragraph. So all 5 paragraphs together, the theme is, as we have 4 defects, Vedas is the source of knowledge. So this is the theme. So like that, all the paragraphs, there are common themes, and we will be studying those themes in detail. Okay, so this is our study methodology. Now let us come to, now what I used to usually do is, I used to directly go back and forth to the Veda base, read and explain the concepts on the slides. But this time I put the whole this in the slides only, so that we don't go back and forth. So you can refer to your books, and you can do the paragraph numbering. This is para 1. The common theme in paragraph 1 to 5 is that as we have 4 defects, Vedas is the source of knowledge. Okay. So this is a lecture by Prabhupada, and we will go through that and then discuss some important points and concepts. Ladies and gentlemen, today's subject matter is the teachings of the Vedas. What are the Vedas? We also yesterday saw a definition of Veda. With, it comes from a root word with, to know. And that which teaches dharma and the knowledge of Brahman is called as Vedas yesterday. So what is Prabhupada saying here? The Prabhupada says the Sanskrit verbal root of Veda can be interpreted variously, but the purport is finally one. Vedas means knowledge. So Prabhupada is giving a very broad definition of what is the Vedas. It can be interpreted variously. We saw that. With means to know, knowledge, and the definition yesterday we saw was, that which teaches dharma and knowledge of Brahman is Vedas. But here Prabhupada is giving a very broad understanding. The purport is finally one. Vedas means knowledge. Any knowledge you accept is Veda. For the teachings of the Vedas are original knowledge. So here, we have to understand this term Veda. So this is a very important concept now. Prabhupada uses this term Veda. The term Veda can be used in an all expansive level, at a very broad level, means all knowledge. Then the term Veda can be used in an average sense, meaning Vedic literature. All Vedic literature are Vedas, you can say. And the term Veda can be used in a restrictive sense, meaning that only the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, they are considered as Vedas. In fact, the Mayavadis consider only the Shrutis as the Vedas. So they don't accept the Puranas and the Itihasas, because ultimately, Bhagavan doesn't come and perform any Leelas. So they don't have faith in it. There's all imagined, it's all Maya, they think. And the Puranas speak about devotion and how the Lord reciprocates, how the Lord performs Leelas and all. So they don't accept that. So they use the term Veda in a very restrictive sense. That means Veda means the four Vedas. And in average sense means, all Vedic literature is. And in an expansive sense, so here when Prabhupada is speaking about the definition of Veda, in which sense does he use it? Who will answer this? In which sense is he using it? In which sense is he using it? Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
I think it's expansive level, it just comprises of whole everything.
All knowledge, yeah.
All knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada is using in an expansive sense here. So we should understand, that these terminologies have definitions and what those definitions mean also. In a general sense, Prabhupada regularly uses Veda in an average sense, but here he is using it in a all expansive sense. So like that, as we study the purports, we will be studying some of these concepts. Now we understood this term Veda, can be used in, restricted sense, average sense, and a all expansive or expansive sense. Okay. Continuing paragraph 1. In the conditioned stage, our knowledge is subject to many deficiencies. The difference between the conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects. The first defect is he must commit mistakes. For example, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi was considered to be a very great personality, but he committed many mistakes. Indirectly, Prabhupada is saying he's a conditioned soul because he commits mistakes. Even at the last stage of his life, his assistant warned Mahatma Gandhi, don't go to the New Delhi meeting. I have some friends and I've heard there is danger. But he did not hear. He persisted in going and was killed. Even great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, President Kennedy, there are so many of them make mistakes. So Prabhupada is giving this lecture, imagine, in London, because Mahatma Gandhi graduated their law from London, and he's speaking about even great personalities commit mistakes. That's a daring of Prabhupada, because he had that purity to speak. To err is human. This is one defect of the conditioned soul. Another defect, to be illusioned. Illusion means to accept something which is not Maya. So Prabhupada is explaining what is pramad or illusion. Maya means what is not. Everyone is accepting the body as self. So Prabhupada gives now a specific example of it. If I ask you what you are, you will say, I am Mr. John, I am rich man, I am this, I am that. All these are bodily identifications, but you are not this body. This is illusion, pramad. The third defect is the cheating propensity. Actually, this is here. This is in the next paragraph. Sorry. So each paragraph I have put into a separate slide. The third defect is the cheating propensity. So this is one paragraph only. Next paragraph, paragraph 4. Everyone has a propensity to cheat others. Although a person is fool number 1, he possesses himself as very intelligent. Although it is already pointed out that he is in illusion, Prabhupada is using the previous thing, pramad, and makes mistakes, Brahma. He will terrorize. I think this is this is this. But he does not even know his own position. He writes books of philosophy, although he is defective. This is propensity to cheat. That is his disease, that is cheating. Lastly, our senses are imperfect. We are very proud of our eyes. Often someone will challenge, can you show me God? But do we have the eyes to see God? You will never see if you haven't the eyes. If immediately the room becomes dark, you cannot even see your own hands. So what power do you have to see? We cannot therefore expect knowledge, Veda, with these imperfect senses. With all these deficiencies in conditioned life, we cannot give perfect knowledge to anyone, nor are we ourselves perfect. Therefore, we accept the Vedas as they are. Now, Prabhupada speaks about that as we have these 4 defects, Vedas is the source of knowledge. Now, many people feel sometimes, Veda is a very old body of knowledge. What is the necessity now in the modern, times today when we have so much technologically advanced? We don't feel necessary to refer to this old body of knowledge. But just like the sun was needed for illumination in the past, it is needed now in the present, and it is needed even in the future. Similarly, Vedas are like the sun, and we are in darkness. We are in darkness. And to illuminate us, we need the Vedas, Vedic knowledge. And one of the reasons why we need the Vedic knowledge is because we have these 4 defects. Because we have these 4 defects, we need to take help from the Vedas to attain knowledge. Because our knowledge senses are imperfect, because we commit mistakes, because we are in illusion, and because we have this tendency to cheat, we cannot get perfect knowledge. That's why if you want to get perfect knowledge, then we have to refer to the Vedas. So that's how Prabhupada is logically building his argument. So now, Prabhupada spoke about these 4 defects. And what are the Sanskrit terms for these 4 defects? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. What are the Sanskrit terms for these 4 defects? Anyone? It's a very foundational, we study in our first beginning of Bhagavad Gita sessions, which we attend as we join the Hare Krishna movement. What are the terms, Sanskrit terms for these 4 defects? Anyone knows? Yes, Kalyani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandakanam. I only know 2, that Pramad and one is Brahma.
Brahma
And Pramad.
Brahma Pramad, and others, another two. Yes, Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So mistakes is Brahma, illusion is Pramada, cheating is Vipralipsa, and imperfect senses is Karna Apatava.
Karna Apatava. Yes, exactly. Very good. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings out this. Brahma Pramada Vipralipsa Karna Apatava Ishwarera Vakya Nahi Dosha Sabha. The material defects, dosha sabha, of mistakes, Brahma, illusions, pramad, cheating, vipralipsa, and sensory inefficiency, karna apatava, do not exist, nahi, in the words of the Supreme Personality of God, Ishwarara Vakya. So these are the four defects. Now, Prabhupada first spoke about mistake, Brahma, and then he spoke about illusion. That is pramad. And then he spoke about vipralipsa, cheating. And then fourth, he spoke about the karna patava, fourth one. So this is exactly according to the verse. Prabhupada is speaking these four defects sequentially. But for our analysis now, we will take a different sequence. First, we'll take karna patava, then Brahma, then Pramad, and then Vipralipsa. So here you can imagine this is the reality. And we have these four, you can visualize like you have the reality out there and there are doors. Because our senses are limited, we cannot, light also, we cannot see the entire spectrum. Only a certain frequency we can see, the vibgyor, right? The other, even our ears cannot hear, particular frequencies. So because our senses are limited. So if here is the reality, then we can imagine that, there are four doors. And the first door is partially closed. So that restricts our, seeing of the reality because of the limited senses. And then there is Brahma. Because we have this limited senses or our senses are defective, suppose we are counting notes and there are 100 notes of 100 rupees and we count it as 101. We commit mistakes because of Brahma. And the reason is because of Karna Patava. And then there is illusion. This is like further, the door is again partially closed here. First of all, this first door is partially closed. This is also a little closed. And again, because of that, we fall in illusion. Now, illusion means sometimes we don't understand the reality because we fall in illusion. Just like, when you're inside an AC room for a long time and outside it is hot, but because you have been inside for a long time, when you go out, you feel more hot. Actually, it's not so hot because you have been inside in the AC for a long time. So that's how you can feel. And secondly, if you have eaten already some heavy sweet, and then you taste another sweet item, that you will not find sweet, although it is sweet. So pramad is illusion. And then there is vipralipsa. Now let us apply this this concept to what Prabhupada mentioned in the fourth, when he discussed the karna patava. He said, you cannot see God, right? But do we have the eyes to see God? If it's dark, you cannot even see your own hand, Prabhupada said. So with our limited senses, we cannot see God. So we might come to a conclusion God does not exist, right? That's because we cannot see with our senses. And at a deeper level, we see that, oh, there are monkeys how did I come in this world? There is no God in existence. How did we come into the existence? Maybe we came from monkeys. Big mistake. We do Brahma because of, the limited senses. And then further, we know that there is a lot of anatomical difference between a monkey's body and a human body. But, the behavior of the monkeys when we see, if we scratch our head, they scratch our head. If we smile, they would also smile. If we, make some horror faces, they also make horror faces. So because of illusion, we don't realize it, but we feel, maybe, there were, apes, and then from apes, gradually we have evolved and we have come to, this human form. So that is Pramad. And then at a deeper level, although there is unlimited evidence that the humans existed from millions of years ago, but we doctor evidence, we filter that evidence which proves it, and only which suits our theory, we use that to propagate as truth. That is Vipralipsa, cheating propensity. That is Vipralipsa. So the Darwin's theory is whole based on, because of the knowledge which is acquired from senses, where we fall in Brahma and then Pramad and Vipralipsa. So the Ishvara Gyan, Nahi Dosh. There is no, that's why if you want to attain perfect knowledge, you have to take the knowledge from the Vedas, because we have these four defects. So that's why Prabhupada discusses one of the reasons why we should accept the Vedic knowledge, because we have these four defects. Okay, now the next theme is Vedas give universal and axiomatic truth. Paragraph 6 and 7. So now we'll read paragraph 6. If you have any questions, you can always raise your hands, in the discussion. You may call the Vedas Hindu, but Hindu is a foreign name. Actually, this word Hindu is a misnomer. And it's only when the Mughals started invading India, they used to cross the river Sindhu. Sindhu is the river between India and Pakistan, you know that. And they used to enter India. And those who were living in this side, because they could not call Sindhu, they used to call Hindu. And those who were residing in this part of the land, they started calling them as Hindustan. But nowhere in any of the Vedas, you come across this term Hindu. The followers of Veda are called as Varnashram. We are not Hindus. Our identification is Varnashram. Varnashram denotes the followers of the Vedas. And those who accept the human society in 8 divisions of Varna and Ashrama. There are 4 divisions of society and 4 divisions of spiritual life. So Varna is, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And Ashram is Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So Varna is based on the body. And based on, which Varna you're situated. And Ashrama, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. That is for the spiritual development. Ashrama. Ashrama is, you can say, for the soul. We have, we have our Kshatriya nature. That is Varna. We have our Brahminical nature, or the Vaishya nature, and the Shudra nature. It's based on, the consciousness. But the ashrama is, the Kshatriya also is in the Grahastha ashram, and he's progressing spiritually. He can go up to the Vanaprastha ashram, whereas the Brahmana can go up to the Sannyasa ashram. So that is for the development of the soul. So Varna and Ashrama. This is called Varnashram. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:13. These divisions are everywhere because they are created by God. So here Prabhupada is mentioning that the Varnashram is a universal principle. It's not that only now today in India also there is no society which is divided based on Varna and Ashram. It's all lost now. But even 500 years back, the society was, living according to Varnashram principles. The whole society was divided based on Varna and Ashram. It's not only in India, but the whole world, not only the whole world on planet Earth, but the entire universe, the entire 14 planet systems, you can find this division because it is created by Krishna. So this Varnashram is a universal principle. Prabhupada, that's why when his lectures, he used to mention that everywhere in the society you can find intellectual class, the administrative class, the mercantile class, and the labor class. Prabhupada used to say that. So everywhere in the world you go, you can find there are certain class of people who are intellectual by nature. They like research work. Some people like to do management. And then some people are into business. They are the mercantile class. And some people are in the labor class. So these are universal principles. The divisions of society are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Brahmana refers to the very intelligent class of men, those who know what is Brahman. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Similarly, the Kshatriyas, the administrative group, are the next intelligent class of men. Then the Vaishyas, the mercantile group. These natural classifications are found everywhere. So that's the universal principle Prabhupada is stating there. It's found everywhere. So even in America, you will find this natural classification. Everywhere, you'll find it. Even if you go to an enterprise, a company, there will be the R&D R&D department, which does research. So they are like the intellectual class. And then there is the management, which looks into the management of the company. They are like the Kshatriya class. And then there is the productive class, the laborers who produce the goods in the factory. And then there is the marketing department, which markets the products. So all these divisions are there. These are natural classifications found everywhere. This is a Vedic principle and we accept it. So this is a universal principle. Vedic principles are accepted as axiomatic truth, for they cannot be any mistake. That is acceptance. So axiomatic truth means that truth which is evident without any proof or without any argument. We accept it. That is called as an axiomatic truth. For instance, in India, cow dung is accepted as pure, and yet cow dung is a stool of an animal. So Prabhupada is now giving axiomatic truth example of cow dung. Why we accept cow dung is pure? What is the reason? Why do we accept cow dung as pure? What is the reason? Anyone? Why we accept cow dung as pure? Who knows? Dwarkadishpur, yes.
Sri Lakshmi is staying there.
Okay.
The cow dung, plus all other devatas also in the body of cow.
I can say this is secondary reasons. Why cow dung is accepted as pure? Rajeshwari Priya Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, my daughter is telling that it is written in the Shastras, that's why.
Yes, because it is mentioned in the Vedas, that's it. Because Vedas state that, that's it. So Prabhupada is now giving the example of cow dung. In one place, you will find the Vedic injunction that if you touch stool, you have to take a bath immediately. But in another place, it is said that the stool of cow is pure. If you smear cow dung in an impure place, that place becomes pure. With our ordinary sense, we can argue this is contradictory. You say stool of an animal is impure, you have to take bath, but you say stool of cow is pure. This is contradictory. Actually, it is contradictory from an ordinary point of view, but it is not false. It is a fact. In Calcutta, a very prominent scientist and doctor analyzed cow dung and found it contains all antiseptic properties. So cow dung has all the antiseptic properties, and Russia says some scientists learned that even if you have a house with built walls of cow dung, it can protect the radioactive. If there is some radioactivity happening in the city, there's some, radioactive element which has leaked from the nuclear plant, we can prevent that. Such powerful is cow dung. And in the Vedic times, the mothers, when they used to give birth to a child, the umbilical cord is connected through the navel of the child and the mother. And that is to be applied cow dung, because cow dung has that antiseptic qualities. So we accept cow dung as pure because of Shabda Praman. But, we can, Pratyaksh, we cannot see it, but even by today's science, it is proved. So we should not accept it because science is proving it. No, because Shabda is saying it is pure. So that's how Prabhupada gives this example that the Vedic knowledge is universal and it is axiomatic truth. Now, once one of our sannyasis had gone to give a lecture in a Ayurvedic college, and principal, after the lecture was over, he also knew that cow dung and conch shell is pure. Any bone of an animal is impure, but conch shell is pure. But he was giving a reasoning that the conch shell is pure because when it goes down inside in the ocean, it gets purified, and that's why it is pure. So that's the reasoning he was giving. We don't accept that. It is pure because it is mentioned in the Vedas. So that's our understanding. Okay, next paragraph. In India, if one person tells another, you must do this, the other party may say, what do you mean? Is this a Vedic injunction that I have to follow you without argument? Vedic injunctions cannot be interpreted. But ultimately, if you carefully study why these injunctions are there, you will find that they are all correct. They cannot be interpreted. Once it is said it's a Vedic injunction, you'll have to accept it. But with reasoning, good philosophical reasoning, you'll understand that they are all correct. So this is the second theme which Prabhupada speaks in paragraphs 6 and 7. Okay. Any questions up till now? Anyone has? Any questions, any clarifications? These two themes? One second. There are no questions, right? Okay. One question has been asked. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dhanvatna.
Yeah.
Prabhu, on what basis we conclude that Vedas are free of four defects? If you can just elaborate.
Because they are apurusha, they are not of human origin. They are not of human origin. It is Ishvara Vakya Nahi E Dosh. These four defects are not there in the Ishvara Vakya. And that's why they are apurusha. They are not of human origin. And they are perfect. God is perfect. And the knowledge coming from him is also perfect. That's it.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Parsati Prabhuji.
Pranam Prabhuji. They here on Narsimha Dev in Mayapur, they use tiger claws, tiger teeth. Those are the parts of a dead animal. So how we can use for deity worship if it is impure. Are you able to hear me, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
So that is my question. So, I mean, what is the understanding?
Well, I don't know about it. I cannot say anything about it. But the chamara, the yak stick, is, coming from an animal. But there is a pastime which happened in Badrikashram. And the Lord, we use a chamar, which is the yak tail for the Lord's service. So we use that, and that's for the service of the Lord. So that is accepted. But for what reason, I don't know about it. So I cannot say anything much about it. Okay, so now let us continue our discussion. Next theme is so after Prabhupada explains that Vedic knowledge, everything what is there, first of all, it is universal and it is truth. So now Prabhupada in paragraph 8 and 9, Prabhupada mentions Vedic knowledge is superior to Pratyaksh and Anuman knowledge. The Vedas are not compilations of human knowledge. Vedic knowledge comes from the spiritual world, from Lord Krishna. Another name of the Vedas is Shruti. Shruti refers to that knowledge which is acquired by hearing. It is not experimental knowledge. Shruti is considered to be like a mother. We take so much knowledge from our mother. For example, if you want to know who your father is, who can answer you? Your mother. That's a confidential knowledge. If the mother says, here is your father, you have to accept it. You have to accept it. It is not possible to experiment to find out whether he is your father. In our device course, we present this argument, scientific argument to the students. You might say, no, we are advanced in science. I will do a DNA test of all the males on planet Earth, and with that, I will determine who is my father. But even if you want to do a DNA test, to collect samples only will take hundreds of years. 700 years it will take. By the time you will not exist on this planet Earth. So the direct source, you cannot experiment on it. The best source for this confidential knowledge is your mother. And you have to accept the version of your mother. Similarly, if you want to know something beyond your experience, beyond your experimental knowledge, beyond the activities of the senses, then you have to accept the Vedas. So if, what to speak about the knowledge of this world, the phenomenal world, or the knowledge about the higher realms, or the knowledge within this universe, where, we cannot do anything with Pratyaksh, it's only Anuman. But what about beyond this? Beyond the material world, there is a spiritual world, there is a spiritual sky, and Krishna is there. This, is beyond experimentation. So for that, there is no other source except Shruti or Shabda Praman or the Vedas. There is no question of experimenting. There is no question of experimenting. You cannot experiment about it. Let me go to the spiritual world and find out whether it exists. You cannot do that. It has already been experimented. It is already settled. The version of the mother, for instance, has to be accepted as truth. There is no other way. There is no other way. We have to accept the Vedas. Paragraph 9. The Vedas are considered to be mother, and Brahma is called the grandfather, the forefather, because he was first to be instructed in Vedic knowledge. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikaru. So Veda is considered as mother, and Brahma is considered as a father. In the beginning, the first living creature was Brahma, he received this Vedic knowledge and imparted it to Narada and other disciples and sons, and they also distributed it to their disciples. In this way, the Vedic knowledge comes down by disciplinic succession. Disciplic succession. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that Vedic knowledge is understood in this way. Which verse is Prabhupada referring here of the Bhagavad Gita? So as your those who are actually doing bhaktisashtri, they are with their notebooks, their textbooks. So others also can. You should mark, in your textbooks. Yes, Pavanabal Govind Prabhuji, which verse is Prabhupada referring to here?
एवं परंपर प्राप्तम इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
Sakalena Mahata Yoga.
कालेन महता योगो नष्ट परंतप.
Yes, he's referring to that verse 4.2. And this is the parampara, Brahma to Narad, Narad to his disciples. If you make experimental endeavor, you can come to the same conclusion, but just to save time, you should accept. If you want to know who your father is, and you accept your mother as authority, then whatever she says can be accepted without argument. So sometimes when we study the Shastra, we might not understand with our intelligence how this is true, because it requires purification. But we have to accept it, and later on with our sadhana and with the purification, and by hearing the explanation given by realized souls, then we can logically understand it. But we have to accept the Veda as it is, as the absolute truth, without any argument. Now, Prabhupada speaks about the three kinds of evidence. There are three kinds of evidence: Pratyaksh, Anuman, and Shabda. Vedic knowledge is Shabda Praman, and Shabda is superior to Pratyaksh and Anuman. This is the theme here. Pratyaksh means direct evidence. Direct evidence is not very good because our senses are not perfect. This has been established. Karna Patava. We are seeing that sun daily, and it appears to us just like a small disk, but it is actually far, far larger than many planets. Of what value is this seen? So with our limited senses, whatever we perceive, it might not be the reality, right? So that is why, it's direct pratyaksha is not very good. Therefore, we have to read books, then we can understand about the sun. So direct experience is not perfect. So you cannot get perfect knowledge by pratyaksha. Prabhupada, defeats pratyaksha here. Then there is anuman, inductive knowledge. It may be like this hypothesis. For instance, Darwin's theory says it may be like this, it may be like that, but that is not science. That is a suggestion, and it is also not perfect, because anuman means we perceive through the senses, pratyaksha, and then hypothesize with our mind and intellect. Because our source itself is pratyaksha through the senses, either through sound or through perception, there is also, in number one, going to be a defect. So it's also not perfect. But if you receive the knowledge from authoritative sources, that is perfect. So sometimes, I give this example. You are on the ground floor and you see some sound of, some fighting happening between people. There is punch, one is punching the other, and you might become scared. And you might think, oh, two people are fighting on the top. Let me go and stop them. So you heard the sound, pratyaksha, and then you did this anuman. But if you ask them, oh, what is happening there down on top? And the sound comes from the top saying that, oh, we are watching a movie. So that fighting is happening in the movie, that sound is coming. Oh, then you get the right knowledge. Oh, that sound is actually of the fighting is not that two people are literally fighting, actually fighting, but it is in the movie, they're watching a movie. So similarly, if you receive knowledge from authority sources, that is perfect. That is Shabda Praman. If you receive a program guide from a radio station authorities, you accept it. You don't deny it. You don't have to make an experiment because it is received from an authoritative sources. So that's how Prabhupada establishes how Vedic knowledge is superior to Pratyaksha and Anuman. Now here is a very important point. There are some things which will agree with Pratyaksha and Anuman. Just like take the example of Vedic mathematics. And today, modern mathematics, is there, and there is Vedic mathematics, and it is coming from the Vedas. But compared to modern mathematics, Vedic mathematics is still faster. So we might accept, oh, this Vedic mathematics is bona fide. So in one sense, you can see that through Pratyaksha and Anuman, it agrees with the Vedas. And sometimes there is certain Vedic knowledge which might completely disagree with Pratyaksha and Anuman. Completely disagree. Especially about the cosmology. What today's science speaks about, the whole cosmos and its way it functions, it is completely in disagreement with what Sukadeva Goswami in the Bhagavatam and all the scriptures mention. But we are not concerned with what agrees with Pratyaksh or what disagrees with Pratyaksh. But we are concerned with, that knowledge which is completely transcendental about Krishna, about the spiritual world, about, the Vaikuntha planets, There is no way anyone can, see these things, Pratyaksh, nor you can speculate about these things. So the Vedic knowledge speaks about the spiritual world, about Krishna in Golok Vrindavan playing a flute, herding the cows. This cannot be, experimented. So we are concerned with that knowledge which is completely, transcendental, and Prabhupada brings out this in the next paragraph. Vedic knowledge is Shabda Praman. Krishna, Vedas, the only way to know about transcendental realm. Paragraphs 10 to 12. Another name is Shruti. Shruti means that knowledge, this knowledge has to be received simply by oral perception. The Vedas instruct that in order to understand transcendental knowledge, we have to hear from the authority. Transcendental knowledge is knowledge from beyond this universe. So this is a point, we are making here. The transcendental knowledge, which is beyond the universe, whether it agrees with Pratyaksha or disagrees, we can't do anything about it. We have to, there is no other source than Shabda. Within the universe is material knowledge, and beyond this universe is transcendental knowledge, that which transcends the senses, mind, and the intellect. We cannot even go to the end of the universe. So how can we go to the spiritual world? Thus, to acquire full knowledge is impossible. Next paragraph, paragraph 11. Proper. There is spiritual sky. There is another nature which is beyond manifestation and non-manifestation. So how will we know that there is a spiritual sky and there is a spiritual nature? How will we know about it? It's only we have to accept the authority of the Vedas. There is no question of Pratyaksha and Anuman there. So Prabhupada is quoting Parastasmat Bhavanya Vekto Vekta Sanatana, Bhagavad Gita 8.20. He's quoting here. Please mark in your books. But how will you know that there is a sky where the planets and the inhabitants are eternal. All this knowledge is there, but how will you make experiments? It is not possible. Therefore, you have to take the assistance of the Vedas. This is called Vedic knowledge. So you can see how Prabhupada's lecture is so systematic and logical. He started with the, what is Vedas, and gave a very broad definition of Vedas and why we should accept Vedic knowledge, because there are 4 defects. And Vedic knowledge speaks about axiomatic truths, which are universal. They are universal principles. And we have these defects. Pratyaksha and Anuman will not work, only Shabda. Especially about the spiritual sky and the spiritual planets and Krishna and Golok. We have to take the assistance of the Vedas. So that's how Prabhupada is building his argument. Okay, paragraph 11 continued. In our Krishna conscious movement, we are accepting knowledge from the highest authority, Krishna. Krishna is accepted as the highest authority by all classes of men. So, Vedic knowledge is directly spoken by Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna, and all the Vedas come from the breathing of the Lord. Shvetashwar Upanishad speaks that. And now Prabhupada is establishing that how Krishna is the highest authority. Now he is going to establish that. I am speaking about the 2 classes of transcendentalists. One class of transcendentalists is called impersonalistic, Mayavadi. They generally are known as Vedantists, led by Shankaracharya. Yesterday we spoke about, within the Vedanta there is Advaita. And there is another class of transcendentalists called Vaishnavas. So they are, the Vedantists are 2 categories. One is the Advaita and the Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas are the 4 Sampradayas. The Vaishnava Sampradayas are the 4. Ramacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami. Both the Shankara Sampradaya and the Vaishnava Sampradaya have accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now Prabhupada is establishing Krishna as the authority. Shankaracharya is supposed to be an impersonalist who preached impersonalism, impersonal Brahman. But it is a fact that he is a covered personalist. That we know all the past time. In his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he wrote, Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond this cosmic manifestation. So Prabhupada uses this. It's his favorite, because Shankaracharya has accepted it. So he hammers on this many places, That Shankaracharya has said, Narayan Paravektat, Narayan is beyond this cosmic manifestation. And then again, he confirmed that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is Krishna. He has come as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. He particularly mentioned the names of his father and mother. So Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by all transcendentalists. There is no doubt about it. Our source of knowledge in Krishna consciousness is Bhagavad Gita, which comes directly from Krishna. Now Prabhupada is establishing how Bhagavad Gita is Vedic knowledge spoken by Krishna, and Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by all transcendentalists. Yes, Sri Valli Mataji. Ratna Sri Valli Mataji, right? Or Sri Valli Ratna?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it's Ratna Sri Valli.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. Please tell me.
Prabhu, just now we were talking about impersonalists and transcendentalists. So yesterday we were talking that Shankaracharya preached about Advaitism. And Dvaita is what are transcendentalists, right? So my doubt, if that is a yes, is whether all the Sampradayas believe in Dvaita in some way or the other, like how iskcon believes in Achintya, Bheda, this. Do all the transcendental or Dvaitas, all the 4 Sampradayas come under this category?
No, there is, within the Vedanta, there is there are two classes. One is the Shankara Sampradaya, which is impersonal, and then there's the personalist. And within the personalist, there are the four Sampradayas, the Vaishnava Sampradaya, the four Vaishnava Sampradayas. Yesterday, we were discussing about one extreme, Advaita, and the other extreme is Dvaita. But the Dvaita is coming within the personalist, the Vaishnava Sampradayas. The Vaishnava Sampradayas. And the Advaita is, not coming, in the personalist. They're the impersonalist because they accept Brahman, the impersonal Brahman as the highest. I hope you got it. It's clear.
So Dvaita is one among the personalists
Yes.
category.
Yes.
But
Yes.
all the four sampradayas are not necessarily Dvaita.
No. Dvaita philosophy is Madhvacharya's. There is Vishishta Dvaita of the Shankaracharya. Then there is a Shuddha Dvaita Dvaita. And then there is a, Achinta Veda of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which, harmonizes everything. So there are little philosophical differences, but all four are personalist and all four except Vishnu as supreme and Bhakti as the, goal, highest goal to attain the Lord. And they accept the Lord has a personal form, spiritual form, and devotion to him. So like that, they all the four sometimes. But there is, little difference in the philosophy among the four, Vaishnava Sampradayas, personalist class.
Yes.
Okay, our source of knowledge in Krishna consciousness is Bhagavad Gita, which comes from Krishna. We have published Bhagavad Gita as it is because we accept Krishna as he is speaking without any interpretation. This is Vedic knowledge. So we are hearing the Bhagavad Gita. It's directly Shabda Praman, directly coming from Krishna. Since the Vedic knowledge is pure, we accept it. Whatever Krishna says, we accept. This is Krishna consciousness. Sarvam etam pritam manne yanmam vadasi Keshava. I accept whatever he says. Krishna, Arjuna concludes, after hearing in the 10th chapter, I accept. Because Krishna has said, Namai Vidur Suragana, Maharshinam, Aham Adiri Deva. Even the great Maharishis, the Devatas cannot understand. So if we accept everything in truth, whatever Krishna has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita, that is Krishna consciousness. That saves much time. If you accept the right authority or the source of knowledge, then you save much time. For example, there are two systems of knowledge in the material world, inductive and deductive. The inductive is called as the Aroha Panta. Aroha means you try to go up with our limited senses, mind and genes, try to acquire knowledge. So this is called as the ascending process, the inductive process. The other one is the Avaroha Panta, the descending process. The knowledge comes from the higher realms and we just, in the Guru Shish Parampara, accept it. So the Pratyaksha and Anuman is the inductive process and the deductive is the Shabda Praman. From deductive, you accept man is mortal. This is a statement. You have heard it. You accept it. Your father says man is mortal. Your sister says man is mortal. Everyone says man is mortal, but you do not experiment. You accept it as a fact that man is mortal. That's it. If you want to research to find out whether man is mortal, you have to study each and every man. And you may come to think that there may be some man who's not dying, but you have not seen him yet. So you go on wandering around planet Earth and find out if there is any man who is, immortal. I heard that many years back, one of our temple presidents was mentioning in Bombay, a foreigner that time, maybe in the late 85, 90s, came to the temple and he told that I have come in search of Agastya Muni. I have heard that Agastya Muni is eternal, is immortal. So I want to search him. And I want to find out if he can revive my mother. My mother has died. I'm feeling separation from her. And you're searching like that. You know, but this statement is an axiomatic truth and we accept it. And, we don't experiment. And if you try to experiment also, then the temple president told, please go back to your country. You'll not find him. But he was wandering all over Bharatvarsha, India, in order to search for Agastya Rishi. So in this way, your research will never be finished. In Sanskrit, this process is called Aroha, ascending process, Aroha. If you want to attain knowledge by any personal endeavor, by exercising your imperfect senses, you will never come to the right conclusions. That is not possible. Now, Prabhupada gives a praman for this, that it is not possible. Why? Prabhupada gives a praman from the Brahma Samhita. This is last paragraph, that Vedas is the only way to know Krishna and the transcendental. There is a statement in the Brahma Samhita, just ride on the airplane which runs at the speed of mind. Our material airplanes can run 2000 miles per hour. But what is the speed of mind? You are sitting at home. You immediately think of India, say 10,000 miles away. And at once, it is in your home. Your mind has gone there. The mind speed is so swift. Therefore, it is stated, if you travel at this speed for millions of years, you will find that the spiritual sky is unlimited. It is not possible even to approach it. So Prabhupada is quoting which verse from the Brahma Samhita here? Which verse is Prabhupada quoting? Pavan Balagovind Prabhuji, I think he studies a lot of Shastra and does recitation of Shastra. Yes, Pavan Balagovind Prabhuji?
Nothing like that, Prabhu. I just remember few things. Hare Krishna, Dhanottam.
Yes.
Panchastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayorathapi Manaso Muni Pungavana Sopyasya Prabdasrim Avichintatatpai Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham.
Brahma Samhita 5.34. So Prabhupada is quoting that verse from the Brahma Samhita. Therefore, the Vedic injunction is that one must approach. The word compulsory is used a bona fide spiritual master, a guru. So if you want to understand Vedic knowledge, you have to approach a spiritual master. Now, where it is stated, what is the verse you can quote for this? How many hands have been raised? 2 hands. Okay, Rajeshwari Mataji. Yes.
Prabhu, in Bhagavad Gita, Tatvedi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Shrevai.
In Bhagavatam,
Bhagavatam. No idea, Prabhu.
okay. Somebody else also had raised their hand. Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Yeah.
Yeah, my answer was the same, Tatvidi Pranipatena.
What about the Bhagavatam? Lata Mataji had raised their hand.
Bhagavatam.
Only Bhagavad Gita I want to say, Prabhu, not Bhagavad.
Okay.
Can you just put again the question again?
What is the reference you can give that, must approach the word compulsory? It is mentioned. Compulsory, it is mentioned. Which is that verse Prabhupada is quoting actually? It is not the Bhagavad Gita verse Prabhupada is quoting, frankly speaking.
No, I'm still not getting. Quoting what actually?
Which verse is Prabhupada referring to when he's saying compulsory? Compulsory when he's saying. Which verse is Prabhupada referring to?
No, sorry, Prabhuji.
Any other devotees would like to answer? Which verse is Prabhupada quoting? Devotees should have all the references. Tasmat Gurum Prapadde Jigyasa Shreya Uttamam. This comes in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is one reference. But there is another verse which is spoken in the Svetashar Upanishads. And there it is also mentioned, Eva. Eva means certainly. One has to compulsorily go to the spiritual master, with Samit Pani Shrotam. When carrying wood, firewood in the hand, that's, firewood is carried for yagyas. The disciple does that menial service. That is the Svetashar Upanishads, and I'm not able to recollect that. I can give the reference. That is exactly the verse Prabhupada is quoting. And even the Bhagavatam verse can be applied, but that the Svetashar Upanishads is the verse Prabhupada is quoting here. Compulsory, eva. What is the qualification of the spiritual master? He, one who has rightly heard the Vedic message from the right source. Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam. He must have been firmly fixed in Brahman. Tasmat Shreya Uttamam. Prabhupada is actually paraphrasing this. These are the two qualities he must have. He must have heard from his spiritual master, and he should be fixed in Brahman. Otherwise, he is not bona fide, Prabhupada is saying. Otherwise, he is not bona fide. Okay, now, what is the goal of the Vedas? The ultimate goal is Krishna is the ultimate goal of the Vedas. Prabhupada brings out that in paragraph 13. In paragraph 13, Prabhupada brings out this. This Krishna conscious movement is completely authorized from Vedic principles. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the actual aim of Vedic research is to find out Krishna. Vedeshu sarver ahameva vedyo. In the Brahma Samhita, it is also stated Krishna, Govinda has innumerable forms, but they are all one. They are not like our forms which are fallible. His form is infallible. Advaita Achutam Anadi Ananta Rupam. My form has a beginning, but his form has no beginning, Anadi, and it is Ananta. And his form, so many multi-forms, has no end. My form is sitting here and not in my apartment. You are sitting there and not in your apartment. But Krishna can be anywhere at one time. This is the inconceivable potency of the spiritual bodies. And this also refers to even the eternal associates, and especially to the samadhis. The acharyas whose samadhis are there, they are there in the spiritual world, but we can access them there also. They are present there also. He can sit down in Golok Vrindavan at the same time. He is everywhere, all pervading. He is original, the oldest, but never you look at picture at a picture of Krishna and you will find a young boy 15 or 20 years old. But whenever you look at a picture of Krishna, you will find a young boy 15 or 20 years old. You will never find an old man. You have seen pictures of Krishna as a charioteer from the Bhagavad Gita. At the same time, he is not less than 100 years old. He had great grandchildren, but he looked just like a boy. Krishna, God, never becomes old. That is the supreme power. And if you want to search out Krishna by studying the Vedic literature, then you will be baffled. So which verse is Prabhupada quoting here now? That you will be baffled. By studying the Vedic literature, you cannot find Krishna. Which verse is Prabhupada quoting? Pavan Bal Govind Koji again. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Brahma Samhita again, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam.
No. Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam.
Adurlabam. Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakta.
Yes, that is the verse, Prabhupada. So, if you read the entire body of Vedas, you will not find where is Krishna, because 95% of the Vedas deal with Karma Kanda. And every body of knowledge has a certain purpose. So for the Karma Kandis, the goal is to go to Swarga, and their hero is Indra. So Indra is glorified there. Indra is their hero. But just like a 100-rupee note, there is a thin layer there, which, if you hold it, there's a transparent thin line there, and you can see that this note is original. Similarly, in the entire body of Vedas, Krishna is there everywhere, but you cannot see him like that. Because Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. But those who are Atma Bhaktos, everywhere Krishna is only described, Adi, Madhya and Anta. But still you will not be able to find him. How you can find Krishna? Prabhupada shares the secret. It may be possible, he says, but it may be possible, but it is very difficult. But you can very easily learn about him from his devotee, Atma Bhakto. His devotee can deliver him to you. Here he is, take him. That is the potency of Krishna's devotees. Please mark this statement. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his bhajan says, Krishna se tumar, Krishna deite paro, tomara shakati ache. A pure devotee can give Krishna to you like this. And you will not even realize that he has given Krishna to you. Because we are not in Krishna consciousness. That's easy how Krishna is available through his pure devotees. Amito Kangala, Krishna Krishna Boli, Dhai Tava Pache Pache. That's why we should run after these pure devotees who are holding Krishna in their heart, and they can easily give Krishna to anyone. So that's how Prabhupada concludes this discussion, how Krishna is the ultimate goal of the Vedas. Now, the last theme is the history of the Veda and Vedic essence, paragraph 14 and 15. Now, again, I would suggest devotees to please mark in their Isopanisad book, because the paragraph numbering in your book might be not the same. And you will have to refer the paragraph numbering here in the Isopanishads. Sometimes, the paragraphs have been changed. But please refer from here, this is, the last 14 and 15 paragraph. So please refer this only, in marking in your own books. Okay, so I'll come to the last paragraph now. Originally, there was only one Veda, and there was no necessity of reading it. People were so intelligent and had such sharp memories that by once hearing from the lips of the spiritual master, they would understand. They are called as Shruti Dhar because of their practice of spiritual life, especially Brahmacharya life. Smriti Shakti, Dharan Shakti. Smriti Shakti means memory. Dharan Shakti means to hold in the memory. That is to increase. They would immediately grasp the whole purport. 5,000 years ago, Vyasadeva put the Vedas in writing for the people in this age of Kali Yuga. He knew that eventually the people would be short-lived, their memories would be very poor, and their intelligence would not be very sharp. Therefore, let me teach this Vedic knowledge in writing. Prayan alpayusha sabhya talav asmin yugejana manda asu manda bhuti manda bhagyohi padrata. He divided the Vedas into 4, Rig, Sam, Atharva and Yajur. Originally, there was only one Veda, that is Yajur, but he divided into Rig, Sam, Atharva, and Yajur. Then he gave the charge of these Vedas to his different disciples. Yesterday we saw that. He then thought of the less intelligent class of men, Sri, Sudra, and Vijabandhu. He considered the woman class and the Shudra class, worker class, and the Vijabandhus. Vijabandhu refers to those who are born in a high family but who are not properly qualified. A man who is born in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified as a Brahmana is called Vijabandhu. For these persons, he compiled the Mahabharata called the History of India and the 18 Puranas. These are all part of the Vedic literature. So remember, both the Shrutis and the Smritis, compilations by great sages, are also part of Vedic literature. This is called as the fifth Veda. The Mahabharata, the four Vedas, and the Upanishads. The Upanishads are part of the Vedas. Then Ved Vyasdev summarized all Vedic knowledge for scholars and philosophers in what is called as the Vedanta Sutra. This is the last word of the Vedas. The Vedanta Sutra is the ultimate philosophical work of Vyasdev, and yesterday I was mentioning how it harmonizes all the Upanishads, the contradictory statements in Upanishads, and gives a logical understanding to understand the Vedanta darshan of the absolute truth. Vyasdev personally wrote the Vedanta Sutra under the instructions of Narad, his Guru Maharaj, but still he was not satisfied. That is a long story described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasdev was not very satisfied even after compiling many Puranas and Upanishads and even after writing the Vedanta Sutra. Then his spiritual master Narad instructed him, you explain the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means ultimate knowledge, and the ultimate knowledge is Krishna. You speak about Krishna Lila. Krishna says that throughout all the Vedas, one has to understand him. Vedesha sarve ahame Veda. Krishna also says, Vedanta krit Veda vidya chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra and I am the knower of the Vedas. Therefore, the ultimate objective is Krishna. That is explained in all the Vaishnava commentaries on Vedanta philosophy. So the Vaishnava commentaries on the Vedanta philosophy is there. We Gaudiya Vaishnavas have our commentary on the Vedanta philosophy called the Govinda Bhashya by Baldev Vidabhushan. So in the Nyaya Prasthan, on the Vedanta Sutra, all the four acharyas have commented, and the Gaudiyas, except Srimad Bhagavatam as the natural commentary, Mahaprabhu has established this. So there was no need to write commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. But to prove our Sampradaya is bona fide, a challenge came up with the Ramanandis, and that's why Baldev Vidabhushan wrote, the Vedanta Sutra. But we study the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, that is the Bhagavatam. Ramacharya has his commentary, Madhvacharya has one. The version of Sankaracharya is not the only commentary. There are many Vedanta commentaries, but because the Vaishnavas did not present the first Vedanta commentary, people are under a wrong impression that Sankaracharya is the only Vedanta. Sankaracharya first commented on the Vedanta Sutras. Besides that, Vyasdev himself wrote a perfect Vedanta commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the first words of the Vedanta Sutra, Janma Adayasya Yata. Now, my question to you all is, Prabhupada in many places mentions that Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. What is the difference between a natural commentary and a commentary? Commentary is called as Bhashya. Bhashyona Brahma Sutranam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a Bhashya commentary, and Prabhupada says it's a natural commentary. So what is the difference between, a commentary and a natural commentary? Many must have not thought about it, but what is the difference? What is, Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, basically. So what is the difference between a commentary and a natural commentary? Any thoughts on this? No one. Okay, Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji.
Is it, Prabhuji, like natural commentary is his own realization after understanding everything? And then commentary is for yes, writing for other people. Is it?
No. Pavan Bala Govind Prabhuji. Yes.
Commentary means normally we put our own thoughts in that one to conclude it. But natural commentary means he followed his Guru Narada and compiled that Bhagavad.
No. Sorry to say that, yes, Parsarthi Prabhuji.
Dandat Pranam, Swamiji. Commentary means the person who is writing will put some labor for commenting, whereas natural commentary means it is the result. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishna. So it is natural.
No. Some wide speculations are there. Okay, Devaruti Kapil Prabhuji. Yes.
Yeah. Natural commentary is somebody is considered to be an incarnation who have concluded about the absolute truth. And commentary is something like, somebody is doing under a disciplic succession based on their understanding from the acharyas.
Okay, now let me explain what is a commentary. Now, we have the standard verses of the Bhagavad Gita. The 700 verses are as it is. Shankaracharya has written his commentary. It's a commentary. Its purpose. Then Madhvacharya has written, Ramacharya has written, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, Baldev Vidyabhushan has written, Vishwanath Chakravarti has written, Srila Prabhupada has written. That is the commentary. That is the commentary. That is what is called as a commentary. It's called as actually bhashya in Sanskrit, bhashya. And tika means on a bhashya you wrote a further subcontent that is called as tika. On a tika means bhashya paper, write another sub-commentary that is called as a tika. Now, what is a natural commentary? Like, there are the original verses of the Vedanta Sutra. Okay? There are the original verses of the Vedanta Sutra. I don't know Vedanta Sutra, how many verses it has. As far as I recollect, maybe it is 700 verses. I don't recollect, but just a speculation. I'll find out. I think it is 700. So these sutras are, verses written by Vyasadeva. And commentary means, all these acharyas on these sutras, they have given explanation, their purpose. These are commentaries. Shankaracharya has given his Mayavad explanation of these sutras. Then the Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya, Ramacharya, Baldev Vidyabhushan, Govinda Bhashya, it is called commentary. But Bhagavatam is said to be a natural commentary. What does natural commentary mean? Means there is the Vedanta Sutra verse, Janmadhyasya. So, where an elaborate detail expanding on this Vedanta Sutra verse, Janmadhyasya, further expanding on it, giving further explanation and detail. It's not that there are 700 verses of the Vedanta Sutra and Vyasadeva has written, equivalent 700 verses in the Bhagavatam. No, it's very 18,000 verses. He has expanded it further, giving details. And that is what is called as a natural commentary. Now, Prabhupada explains this. Please hear carefully. And that Janmadhyasya is fully explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Janmadhyasya is the sutra. If you, on this sutra, you give a commentary, it's a commentary. But this sutra itself, you further expand it, fully expand it. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, how he has done? The Vedanta Sutra simply hints at what is Brahman, the absolute truth. The absolute truth is that from whom everything emanates. Janmadhyasya yata. Yata means from whom everything emanates. The creation, maintenance, and destruction. But who is that person? That further explanation is given in the natural commentary of Vyasadeva in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is summary, but it is explained in detail in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is what is called as a natural commentary. If everything is emanating from the absolute truth, then what is the nature of that absolute truth? That is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The absolute truth must be conscious. Abhigya is Abhigya, is Swarat, is self-effulgent. We develop our consciousness and knowledge from receiving knowledge from others. But for him, it is said that he is self-effulgent. The whole summary of Vedic knowledge is the Vedanta Sutra, and the Vedanta Sutra is explained by the writer himself in Srimad Bhagavatam. We finally request those who are actually after Vedic knowledge to try to understand the explanation of all Vedic knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So this was also yesterday's conclusion, if you saw in that article, that ultimately the essence of all the Veda is Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And so fortunate we are that we have got this essence, and that also now, we should put our, all our sense, all our heart into studying these two literatures. So that completes the, introduction of Srila Prabhupada to the Isopanishads. So Prabhupada's, lecture or even his purports are very systematic, and one should study them very systematically. And we saw how, in the first 5 paragraphs, there are 4 defects. What is Veda? Prabhupada says, and he uses a broad sense, the term Veda. And why Vedic knowledge is important now also, because we have these defects. And Vedic knowledge speaks about universal principles, and they are axiomatic truths you have to accept. And Pratyaksha and Anuman are not perfect sources of knowledge, it's only Shabda. And to know about spiritual worlds, spiritual planets, and Krishna who resides in the spiritual world, it is only through Vedas and Krishna. And the goal of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Vedesha sarve ahameva vidya. And this is the vast body of Vedic knowledge. And the essence, Vedic essence is Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So this is how Prabhupada concludes his introduction. So from next week, we will begin with the first invocation mantra of Sri Isopanishads, Om Purnamada Purnamida. Okay, so we'll stop here. Any questions or clarification anyone has? Dwarkadish Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhuji, now in many Hindus, especially the new generation, is moving away. They are becoming atheists, telling that all these Vedas and all, where is evidence, is how why we should believe. Because if you see, we say that line, Vedas are pure, we must believe it. So we must believe it. That is, what logic an atheist person should believe. It was sold depending on our faith or trust or something like that. So an atheist person who is moving away to atheistic side, how we can convince them that you should believe it is all authentic. We should believe it, So they may not believe it. So what's your view on this?
What's the question?
So what's your view? So we believe because we have some conviction that it's all true. But a person who is looking through a logical point of view, they may not believe.
That's why when we hold courses, sometimes we present scientific explanations, and through science we slowly take them to the Vedic knowledge. They have faith in science, and how we present the same Vedic knowledge in a scientific way, so that we can attract them and slowly build their faith in Vedas. Drutakarma Prabhu has written about the whole how he has refuted the Darwin's theory. Now Darwin's theory is well known all over the world now. So he has given evidence to show very systematically that how humans have existed from millions of years. So he's refuted the Darwin's theory. so that people can, by these scientific explanations, come to a point where they can start having faith in Vedic knowledge. So there are different strategies we need to adopt so that ultimately they can start having faith in the Vedas. So we can use Pratyaksha and Anuman, like while presenting, we might say that, if I say that, I believe that cow dung is pure because Vedas say it. But if you give a scientific explanation, how science, giving all the evidence from science, how cow dung has all these antiseptic qualities, and you give all these 1 hour presentation, ultimately what you're doing, through science, you are building their faith in Vedic knowledge. So this is what we need to do. You have to build the bridge and slowly build their faith in the Vedas. And once they, are ready, then they'll accept Bhagavad Gita, accept Bhagavatam. It is a long journey sometimes for some people. But somebody who's coming from a traditional background, who is coming from that culture, he has that faith and he can immediately start studying the scriptures. But in today's modern context, we have to, we use those scientific explanations, science as a bridge for them to come to the point of Vedas. That's what we need to do. Okay. Yes, Pavan Balagovind Prabhuji. Yes. I have unmuted you. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, normally we have 4 Vedas as mentioned, but in some of the places like in Bhagavad Gita and all, it is referred as 3 Vedas. Even in 9th chapter in Bhagavad Gita, he says that Ruk Sama Yazurevacha. Only 3 Vedas.
That chair is referring to the 4th Veda.
Okay, that cha is important. But normally Atharvan Veda is not much referred.
No, first of all, Veda means not only the 4 Vedas, it includes Vedas, Puranas, Itihasas, Pancharatra, everything, all body. That is, first we have to understand. Vedas doesn't mean only the 4 Vedas. And this, Jeev Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha proves it. That the 5th Veda is including Mahabharata also, because Mahabharata ultimately gives the explanation of the Vedas. So Veda means all this. It includes even the Puranas, which are Smriti Shastras written, authored by sages. Now, Rig Sama Yajur Evacha is mentioned that Cha refers to the Atharva Veda. Baldev Vidyabhushan in his commentary to the Gita explains that Cha refers to that. So it's not that we only Veda means we restrict to these 4 Vedas, Rigs, Atharva, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva. And ultimately only 6% is remaining. And who can read it? Nobody, nobody is qualified in today's age to even, go through the Vedangas. You have to, at least 12 years study Vedangas, how to do proper Ucharan. Because the Ucharan itself is so difficult. You cannot do Ucharan. To learn all this, it will take 12 years and then you can start reading the Rig Vedas. So today none of us are qualified for all this. And that's why at least the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, which is the essence of all the Vedas, which presents the purpose of the Vedas to know Krishna and attain, him. That is, we are so fortunate in one sense.
Just to follow it, the Vedas normally deal with, because it's generally they deal with Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. This is how normally the Vedas deal with, distribute the knowledge.
That's one division when we pass through the Karma Kanda division, because human beings, their conditioned souls in the material world are apt for sense gratification. They are always looking for sense gratification. So a major portion of the Vedas deal with, how you can do sense gratification in a dharmic way, so that slowly you can elevate yourself. And once you have come to the self-realization, then the Jnana Kanda portion is, access to him. But ultimately the goal is bhakti, upasana kanda, towards Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So all these portions are leading to that. It is leading to that. So that's why the goal of Vedas, is bhakti only. It's bhakti only. And everywhere in the Vedas, it's only Krishna only there actually. But still it is very difficult to find until we come across one who knows the essence of the Vedas. Right. Is it okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Krishna.
Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Purushottam Yoga, after explaining the Vedanta Sutra in 3 verses, Dvamimam Purushaloke Sharakshar Evacha Shara Sarvani Bhutani. After that, then he says, Yo Mam Eva Sammudo Janati Purushottam Sa Sarvavid Bhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena. Sarvavid, he knows everything. One who understands me as Purushottam and he worships me, then he knows everything. He's Sarvavid, he's the knower of everything. So ultimate goal of Vedas is devotion and bhakti. Devahuti Kapil Prabhuji, yes.
Yeah, I just have a question on the last paragraph. So it is highlighted that the Vedanta Sutra simply hints at what is Brahman. So the Vedas do call out that God has a form, right? Or it just talks from an impersonal point of view. If the Vedas are still calling out about the form, then why Vedanta Sutra just talks about absolute truth from a Brahman point of view, like the consciousness alone, and why not his personal form or the Bhagwan form?
Well, the Vedanta Sutra is very, very terse. It's very cryptic. It is, meant for, the Gyanis, those who have studied the Upanishads. And it presents, in a very logical way, how, there is Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. If you study it thoroughly, ultimately you'll come to devotion only. But the Brahman, Brahman, the absolute truth is called as Brahman. He's Brahman. And it presents in a very philosophical way, and that's why it is difficult to understand. But that very same Brahman, when he comes and performs pastimes here, and performs reciprocation with his devotees, which, are described in the Puranas, then it becomes easy for us to understand the absolute truth. So it's only based on, the audience as a class, who can, who can come to the same conclusions. That's why, that's the difference. But, it speaks about Brahman, and Brahman is the absolute truth. And the Parabrahma is the absolute truth. And in the Isopanishads, when we start studying, we'll come to know about a lot of these things. Prabhupada speaks about the family of Parabrahma. The Brahman, how can he have a family? But when we speak the Bhagavatam, we speak about Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, Krishna, the Gopas, the Gopis, then we can relate.
Yeah.
So it speaks in a very terse and a cryptic language, but it ultimately points out to that. And even in fact, the Vedas are not polytheistic, which worship, speak about many gods. If you see, most of the Rig Veda are Samhita songs, propitiating Indra or Surya. But that effulgence, what they are speaking, is actually the supreme effulgence, that is Brahman, because they are all part and parcel of them. So in that sense, those who are grounded in the right understanding, they can understand it is actually glorifying Krishna only. But we might think it is glorifying Indra or Agni or Surya. But it's actually glorifying.
No, that's fine. Like, so now say for example, my question is like between personal and impersonal aspect, right? So Brahman is the impersonal aspect. So were they not able to derive the personal?
We'll come to the discussion when we start with the Upanishads.
Okay.
There are certain concepts which we need to understand,
Okay.
and then we'll slowly build on that. Otherwise,
Okay. Okay.
we'll
But
build
it
on-
does call out, right? Vedas do
Yes, yes,
call
I
out
got it. I got
all
it.
Buddha. Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to that when why the Upanishads, how we come to this impersonal understanding, what the Upanishads deal with. We'll go into that
Okay.
concept, and that time we will take up this question.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, then thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Isopanisad ki jai. Hare Krishna.